The Megalodon struck from below, fast, brutal, silent. But this time, something was different. This wasn't the shallows. This wasn't the hunting grounds. This was 3,000 feet below the surface, where no light reaches, where no Megalodon should survive. Yet here it was, hunting, killing, thriving in absolute darkness. Let me take you back 15 million years to the Miocene epoch, when the oceans were ruled by the largest predatory shark to ever exist, Megalodon. Otodus Megalodon, a creature so massive, so perfectly designed for killing, that it had no equal in the seas. 60 feet long, 70 tons of pure muscle, jaws that could bite with 40-odd pounds of force, 10 times stronger than a great white, 3 times more powerful than a Tyrannosaurus rex, teeth the size of human hands, serrated like steak knives, capable of slicing through bone, blubber, and flesh with terrifying ease. For millions of years, Megalodon reigned supreme. It hunted whales. It terrorized dolphins. It patrolled the warm, shallow waters of ancient coastlines, ambushing prey from below with devastating precision. But this story isn't about that Megalodon. This is the story of the one that fell. The one that sank into darkness. The one that should have died, but didn't. Her name? Well, we'll call her Apex. Apex was a female Megalodon, 55 feet long, 65 tons, in the prime of her life. She had ruled the waters off the coast of what would one day become California for nearly 2 decades. Her hunting grounds were rich with prey: baleen whales, prehistoric seals, schools of massive tuna. Life was good. Life was easy. Until the earthquake. It happened without warning. A massive tectonic shift deep beneath the ocean floor, releasing energy equivalent to 1,000 nuclear bombs. The seabed buckled. Underwater landslides triggered. And Apex, who had been hunting near a steep continental shelf, suddenly found herself caught in a cascading wall of sediment and debris. She tried to swim, tried to fight against the current, but the force was too strong. The ocean itself was collapsing beneath her, and then she fell down. Down, down, past the shallow hunting grounds where sunlight danced through the water, past the twilight zone where the last rays of light faded into blue-black gloom, past the midnight zone where bioluminescent creatures flickered like distant stars, into the abyss, 3,000 feet below the surface, a place where the pressure could crush steel, where the temperature hovered just above freezing, where no light had reached in millions of years. A place where Megalodon had never gone. A place where Megalodon could not survive. Or so evolution had believed. Apex hit the bottom hard, disoriented, confused, pain shooting through her massive body from the impact. For several minutes, she lay there in the silt, her gills working overtime, trying to process what had just happened. And then, she opened her eyes and saw nothing. Absolute darkness. Not the darkness of night, where shadows still held shape. Not the darkness of deep water, where faint traces of light filtered down from above. True darkness, complete darkness. The kind of darkness that presses against your eyes like a physical weight. Apex had never experienced this before. Her entire existence had been defined by sight. Spotting prey from below, silhouetted against the sun, tracking movement in the water, reading the subtle cues of fleeing animals. But here, there was nothing to see. For the first time in her life, Apex felt something she had never felt before. Fear. Survival instinct kicked in. Apex pushed herself off the bottom and began to swim. Slowly at first, testing her body, making sure nothing was broken. Her powerful tail swept back and forth, propelling her massive frame through the frigid water. But which way was up? In the absolute darkness, there was no reference point, no light to follow, no surface to aim for. Just black in every direction. Apex tried to use her other senses, her lateral line, a sensory organ running along her sides that detected vibrations and pressure changes in the water. It told her the shape of the seafloor below, the distant rumble of settling sediment, but nothing about which way led to the surface. She swam for hours, maybe days. Time lost all meaning in the darkness. Her body began to feel the strain. The pressure down here was immense, nearly 400 pounds per square inch. Her organs, designed for shallow water, struggled to function. Her muscles ached. Her gills worked harder than they ever had, extracting what little oxygen existed in these cold, still waters. And then there was the hunger. Megalodon had a metabolism like a furnace. At her size, Apex needed to consume hundreds of pounds of meat every day just to maintain her body temperature and energy levels. She had already been hunting when the earthquake struck, already hungry. Now she was starving. But there was nothing to hunt. No whales, no seals, no dolphins. The abyss was a desert, a cold, dark, empty void, or so she thought. On the fourth day, if day still meant anything down here, Apex detected something, a vibration, faint, distant, but unmistakable. Something was moving through the water, something alive. Her predatory instincts flared to life, every fiber of her being locked onto that signal. She turned, her massive body pivoting with surprising grace, and began to swim toward the source. The vibration grew stronger, closer. It was large, not whale-sized, but substantial, maybe 15 feet long, moving slowly, methodically. Apex accelerated, her tail pumped harder, her jaws opened slightly, preparing for the strike. And then, she hit it. Not a deliberate attack. She literally swam straight into it in the darkness. The creature, some kind of giant squid, she realized from the brief contact, exploded into motion. Tentacles lashed out, suction cups gripping her snout, her gills trying to find purchase. Apex thrashed violently, shaking her head, using her superior size and strength to tear free. But in those few seconds of contact, something changed. Apex's eyes, those large, powerful eyes designed for spotting prey in sunlit waters, were damaged. The squid's barbed tentacles had raked across them, tearing delicate tissue. Blood clouded the water around her head. Pain seared through her skull. And when the squid finally fled, disappearing into the darkness, Apex realized something terrible. Her vision, already useless in the darkness, was now gone completely. One eye was badly damaged, the cornea torn. The other would soon follow, infected and deteriorating in the cold, bacteria-rich waters of the deep. Within a week, Apex was completely blind. And that's when the transformation began. Evolution is a slow process. It takes thousands, sometimes millions of years, for species to adapt to new environments. But individual adaptation, the ability of a single organism to learn, to change its behavior, to survive against impossible odds, that can happen much faster. Apex had two choices: die or adapt. She chose to adapt. Without sight, her other senses sharpened dramatically. Her lateral line became her primary hunting tool. She could detect the faintest vibrations in the water from hundreds of feet away. The flutter of fins, the pulse of a heartbeat, the movement of muscles contracting and relaxing. Her sense of smell, already powerful, became even more acute. In the deep ocean, scent trails lingered for hours, spreading slowly through the still water. Apex learned to follow these invisible roads, tracking prey across vast distances. But most importantly, she learned to use her ampullae of Lorenzini, specialized electroreceptor organs in her snout that detected the electrical fields generated by living creatures. Every muscle contraction, every heartbeat, every nervous system impulse created a tiny electrical signature, and Apex learned to read them like a book. She became a ghost, a phantom predator, moving through the darkness with a grace and precision that seemed impossible for something so large. Her hunting strategy changed completely. Gone were the explosive ambush attacks from below. In the abyss, There was no below in the sense of a silhouette against light. Instead, Apex learned patience. She would detect prey from a distance, then stalk it slowly, using her electroreception to track its exact position, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. When she did attack, it was with surgical precision. No wasted energy, no missed strikes. Her jaws would close around the prey with devastating accuracy, guided not by sight, but by the electrical symphony of life itself. And the prey down here, they had never encountered anything like her. Giant squids, deep-sea sharks, bizarre fish species adapted to the crushing pressure. They had evolved in an environment where the largest predators were maybe 20, 30 feet long. They had no defense against a 55-foot apex predator. Apex was, quite literally, an alien invader in an ecosystem that had never seen anything like her. She was a shark from the sunlit world, hunting in a realm of eternal night. And she was thriving. Months passed, maybe a year. Apex lost track of time completely, but she had established a territory, a vast stretch of the abyssal plain, roughly 50 square miles, centered around an area of unusual geological activity. Hydrothermal vents dotted the seafloor here, spewing superheated water rich in minerals. These vents supported unique ecosystems, colonies of tube worms, fields of giant clams, swarms of strange crustaceans. And where there were small creatures, there were bigger creatures that fed on them, which meant food for Apex. She learned the geography of her territory with the same precision a wolf learns its forest. Every rock formation, every vent field, every canyon and crevice. She navigated it all in complete darkness, building a three-dimensional mental map based purely on water currents, pressure changes, and electrical signatures. She even learned to use the vents themselves. The superheated water plumes created unique pressure signatures that Apex could detect from miles away. They became landmarks, navigation beacons in the endless black. But she was alone, completely alone. Megalodon weren't social creatures. They didn't hunt in packs or form lasting bonds, but they did encounter each other. They did occasionally interact, competing for territory, mating, establishing dominance hierarchies. Apex had none of that now. She was the only member of her species in the abyss, possibly the only megalodon to ever survive at these depths. The loneliness was absolute. On some level, a level we can't fully understand but can perhaps imagine, she must have felt it. The absence of others like her. The silence where once there had been the distant vibrations of other massive predators moving through the water. But loneliness doesn't kill apex predators. Hunger does. And Apex was always hungry. It was during her second year in the abyss that something changed. Apex detected it first as a series of unusual vibrations. Multiple large objects moving through the water. Too coordinated to be random, too numerous to be just one creature. A pod. She had encountered pods before in her life in the shallows. Whales traveling together, dolphins hunting in groups. This felt similar, but different. The electrical signatures were wrong. Not mammals. Something else. Sharks. A pack of deep-sea sharks. Greenland sharks, maybe 15 feet long each, moving in a loose formation. 6 of them. Slowly patrolling the edge of Apex's territory. They had likely been drawn by the same thing that sustained Apex. The rich ecosystem around the hydrothermal vents. Easy prey. Abundant food. But this was Apex's territory, and she didn't share. She began to stalk them, tracking the pod from a distance. The Greenland sharks were slow-moving, methodical hunters adapted to the deep cold. They had no natural predators down here. They had no idea what was coming. Apex chose her target carefully, the largest male, swimming slightly ahead of the others. She approached from behind and below, using the thermal plume from a nearby vent to mask her electrical signature, until the last possible moment. When she struck, it was devastating. Her jaws closed around the Greenland shark's midsection with bone-crushing force. The smaller shark thrashed violently, its tail whipping back and forth, but it was useless. Apex's teeth, each one 7 inches long, punctured through flesh, spine, and organs in an instant. The other sharks scattered, fleeing in all directions, trailing electrical panic signatures that Apex could taste in the water. But she didn't chase them, didn't need to. She had made her point. This was her territory, her hunting ground, her abyss, and anything that entered it was either food or competition. And competition didn't last long. Time continued its meaningless march. 2 years became 5. 5 became 10. Apex's body changed, adapted, evolved in real time in ways that shouldn't have been possible. Her eyes, now completely non-functional, began to atrophy, but the space they left behind became colonized by expanded ampullae of Lorenzini. Her electroreception became even more sensitive, capable of detecting the faint electrical hum of a beating heart from over a mile away. Her lateral line system expanded, growing more complex, more refined. She could now detect not just vibrations, but the subtle differences in water pressure created by objects of different sizes and shapes. She was, essentially, seeing through sound and feeling. Her metabolism slowed. The cold, low-oxygen environment of the abyss forced her body to become more efficient. She needed less food, could go longer between meals, could survive on prey that would have barely sustained her in her previous life. She was no longer the Megalodon she had been. She was something new, something that evolution had never produced before and would never produce again. A deep-sea apex predator weighing 65 tons, an impossibility made flesh. But even impossibilities have limits. It started small. A slight sluggishness in her movements, a faint ache in her muscles that never quite went away. At first, Apex ignored it. She had experienced pain before, injuries, infections. They always healed. But this didn't heal. Her body, magnificent as it was, had never been designed for the abyss. The pressure, the cold, the low oxygen, it all took a toll. For 10 years, her sheer will to survive had kept her alive. But biology has limits. Her organs were failing. Slowly, steadily, inevitably. Her gills struggled to extract oxygen from the thin water. Her heart labored to pump blood through a circulatory system designed for much warmer temperatures. Her liver, which in a healthy megalodon could comprise 25% of her body weight and served as an essential buoyancy control organ, was breaking down. She was dying, not from a rival predator, not from starvation, but from the simple fact that she was in a place she was never meant to be. The abyss was killing her, but slowly. So slowly. Apex knew, on some instinctive level, that her time was ending. She could feel her body failing, could sense the weakness spreading through her muscles, the growing difficulty in each breath, the way her heart seemed to skip beats. She had perhaps weeks left, maybe days, but she was still a predator. And predators hunt until the very end. She detected it from nearly 2 miles away. A large electrical signature moving slowly through the water. Another creature drawn to the thermal vents, looking for food. Apex turned and began to swim toward it, her massive tail sweeping back and forth with a rhythm she had perfected over 10 years in the darkness. As she drew closer, she realized what it was. A whale. Not one of the massive baleen whales she had hunted in her youth, but a smaller species. A beaked whale, maybe 30 feet long, that had dove deep searching for squid. It was far from the surface, far from safety, and it had no idea Apex was there. She approached slowly, methodically, tracking its every movement through its electrical field. The whale was focused on its own hunt, echolocating for prey, completely unaware of the much larger predator stalking it from the darkness. Apex positioned herself perfectly, below and behind, just like she used to do millions of heartbeats ago when she hunted in sunlight. And then she struck. Her jaws closed around the whale's tail fluke with devastating force. The whale screamed, a high-pitched, agonized sound that echoed through the deep water. It tried to flee, tried to swim toward the distant surface, but Apex held firm. She shook her head violently, using her body weight to drag the whale down, away from the light, into the abyss. The whale fought with everything it had, but it was no match for 65 tons of apex predator. Within minutes, it was over. Apex fed slowly, savoring every bite. The warm blood, the familiar taste of mammal flesh. It was like a memory from another life, a reminder of who she had been before the fall. When she finished, she remained there, floating in the darkness, her belly full for the first time in weeks. And for a brief moment, the pain seemed to fade. The next day, Apex didn't wake. Her massive body settled slowly to the seafloor, coming to rest on the silt beside a hydrothermal vent. The warm water from the vent created gentle currents that moved around her, making it almost look like she was still breathing. But she wasn't. The blind queen of the abyss, the impossible predator, the Megalodon that survived in darkness, was gone. Within hours, the scavengers came. Hagfish, amphipods, strange, ghostly creatures that made their living picking apart the dead in the deep. They descended on her body in swarms, consuming flesh that had once struck fear into the hearts of the ocean's largest creatures. Within weeks, her skeleton was picked clean. Within months, it was buried under layers of sediment. And within years, it was gone completely, absorbed back into the earth from which it came. No one would ever know she had existed. No paleontologist would ever uncover her bones, marvel at her size, wonder at her story. She would leave no fossil record, no evidence, no proof that a megalodon had ever adapted to life in the abyssal zone. She was a ghost in every sense of the word, a creature that shouldn't have existed, living in a place it shouldn't have survived, doing things evolution said were impossible. And then, gone. The ocean is vast beyond human comprehension, covering 71% of our planet's surface, with an average depth of over 12,000 feet. It contains ecosystems we've barely begun to explore. We know more about the surface of Mars than we do about the deep ocean. And in those unexplored depths, in those places where light has never reached and pressure would crush a human instantly, there are creatures we've never seen, adaptations we've never imagined, stories we'll never know. Apex's story is fiction. A what-if scenario exploring how an apex predator might adapt to the most extreme environment on Earth. But here's what's not fiction. Life finds a way. Evolution is relentless. And the ocean keeps its secrets. In 2013, researchers discovered a species of snailfish living at depths of 26,000 feet, far deeper than anyone thought fish could survive. In 2019, the deepest ever fish was filmed at 27,000 feet in the Mariana Trench. Every year, we discover species that shouldn't exist, living in places they can't survive. So ask yourself this: if a tiny snailfish can adapt to depths that would crush steel, what else might be down there? What other impossible predators might be lurking in the darkness? What other apex-level creatures might be hunting in waters we've never explored? The ocean is 15 million years older than when Apex lived. 15 million years of evolution, adaptation, survival. The deep ocean is waiting. And somewhere in the absolute darkness, something is hunting. Maybe it's a giant squid. Maybe it's a previously unknown species of shark. Or maybe, just maybe, It's something we were never meant to find.